Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Ten Quick Talk podcast. If you have not already subscribed to the channel down below, it really helps and we are continuing to grow here. So thank you for your support. Now, we will be continuing our season preview series. Today will be the Oregon Ducks season preview series. I'll go through the roster and then the schedule. We will have more in-depth schedule breakdowns closer to the season and giving you my final thoughts then. But that's for then. This is now. And if you haven't watched my Nebraska season preview series, go watch that as well. That one kicked off the season preview series of videos that will be coming out, and Ohio State and Michigan will be coming as well in the very near future. Now let's get right into it. So here's my roster preview. We will go over potential strengths and potential weaknesses at the end to start with the offense and work our way to the defense. On offense, at quarterback, I gave the quarterback room an A grade because Dillon Gabriel, in my opinion, should win the Heisman. I predict him to win the Heisman. I think it'll happen. And he is right now third in the odds market to win the Heisman. And he has elite talent at the skill positions to help him win that award. And he just has a great arm, athletic enough to get outside the pocket and just make plays. He's a playmaker on an offensive minded team with an offensive minded head coach in Dan Lanning and offensive coordinator Will Stein. At running back, I gave running back an A grade as well. Jordan James is one of the premier backs in the league, top 10 in most every article or stat that you want to go by going into this year. And his backups, Noah Whittingham and Jay Harris, are also studs back there as well, backing up Jay Harris. At wide receiver and tight end, I also have to give this an A. Shows you really how good this Oregon team is. Trayshawn Holden, Evan Stewart, and Tez Johnson at wide receiver. All three will start, and all three are number ones on a lot of different teams. If you put any of those three players on many teams, and even the elite teams, if you put Evan Stewart on Ohio State, he's their number one. If you put Trayshawn Holden at Michigan, he's their number one. If you put Tez Johnson at Penn State, he is their number one. They have three bona fide number ones on their roster. I truly believe that. Evan Stewart, the best player in the portal, second only to one of the best players, second only to Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman, almost received a perfect score of, he had 98, five-star bona fide player. You could say that about, honestly, a lot of players on this Oregon roster, but especially with Evan Stewart. And at tight end, they have a stud as well in Terrence Ferguson, the senior. He is coming back as well. At offensive line, I gave them a B+. I think that they have the two of the best tackles in the game in a Johnny Cornelius and Josh Connerly Jr. I think that they are bona fide tackles, bona fide studs, in my opinion. But I do have some questions at guard with Matthew Bedford transferring in and Marcus Harper at guard. And then center Ipani Laulu is also pretty good, but I don't think is quite elite. So for that, I give them a B+. So now moving to the defense, at defensive line, I gave the Oregon Ducks an A-. They went to the portal to redo this defensive line, and they got two studs. Let's be honest here. Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle, transferred over from Michigan State in one of the many positions that Michigan State got really gutted in at defensive tackle. But Michigan State's best defensive tackle, one of the better ones in the league, transfers over. And Jamari Caldwell, honestly a more exciting player, transfers in from Houston, and he is a bona fide stud as well. So I think that this defensive line has a lot of promise going into this next year. Next, at linebacker, probably one of the most misunderstood positions on this Oregon roster. I see a lot of people say that this linebacker room will hold them back from winning it all, or winning the Big Ten championship, beating Ohio State or whatever. And I see some people that are saying this linebacker room will be the strength of this team. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to settle right here in the middle. This linebacker room comes back for another season, including players like Justin Jacobs, Jeffrey Baza, Mateo Uyangalale. But these players, they're not they're not quite at the level of elite yet. I can't give them an A or an A minus grade yet, but they have the potential to be there. As I'll talk about in the potential weaknesses. But for now, I can't trust them quite enough to say that they're going to be an elite unit or that they're going to be a strength of this team. So that's my thoughts about the linebacker room. And the secondary room, in my opinion, though, will be a strength of this team. I love the addition of Jabbar Muhammad from Washington. You see him down there in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. And Kobe Savage as well coming in. Can't hurt anything. Tysheem Johnson at strong safety, I think, will be a very good player. And I think this secondary is very good. Now, moving to the last part of this frame here, when I say potential strengths and potential weaknesses, I'm not saying that they are strengths and that they are weaknesses, which is why I put the word potential in front of them. We'll start off here with the strengths. Potential strengths, the secondary, definitely a potential strength. I can see a ton of picks coming this way. I can see a ton of forced fumbles. This secondary has elite talent, especially in players like Jabbar Muhammad and Kobe Savage. But there is also another school of thought out there that they just aren't quite connected yet and that they might have some trouble against some elite receivers. I can totally understand that, but from what I see in the secondary, it's hard not to be positive about it, in my opinion. Quarterback play. Yes, Dillon Gabriel could go off the rails and just be horrible, but I really don't see that happening. I really don't. I think Dillon Gabriel, like I said, will win the Heisman, in my opinion. And at skill positions, this is also a potential strength. Yes, things could go way derailed. I mean, the Oregon train could just go way derailed, but the chance of that happening is so astronomically low, in my opinion. And I think skill position, meaning the running back Jordan James, all those wide receivers that we talked about, and the tight end Ferguson. I think that those players at those positions, at the skill position, will thrive. Now, going to potential weaknesses, coaching. We haven't touched upon this, but in my opinion, the one thing holding them back is the in-game management of Dan Lanning. If he can solve that, it's like Ohio State beating Michigan. If they can just do that, I can see them winning the whole thing. I can. I can see them winning the national championship if Dan Lanning smarts up and coaches a really good game against a marquee opponent. They have a couple in Michigan and Ohio State on the schedule, which we'll get to here in a minute. But I think the coaching needs to be tightened up. So I see this as a potential weakness. Linebacker, like we said, some people love the linebacker room, some people hate the linebacker room. I'm on the side of I think it's largely unproven, and I think that they have the ability to succeed. But I think out of every single position group on this team, it's the least likely to succeed, in my opinion. And at guard, like I said, I'm a little bit stuck with the guards. I'm not too sure how they will play, but honestly, they can't play terrible because this whole offense will be propping them up around them. So that is what I think about the roster. So this is your roster preview here. Now we go to the schedule. I have my own system for determining how I think Oregon will do in these games. If you don't know the system, I suggest you watch the Nebraska season preview. I laid it out there. But just a quick 10-second rundown. In orange, as we go forward, are games that I think Oregon has a 0 to 30% chance of winning. Ones in black, I'll say pick 'em games, and that will be more at the end. In the reddish, orangish color, 60 to 80% chance, and then blue is a certified win. I would just chalk that one up as a win. So let's get started here. Their schedule opens up versus Idaho, versus Boise State. Then we'll travel to Oregon State. This is a sneaky game to watch out for. Week 4 is a bye. Week 5 at UCLA versus Michigan State, and then the marquee game versus Ohio State in Week 7. Week 8 at Purdue. Week 9 versus Illinois. And Week 10, they go to Michigan, another marquee game there. And they finish out their schedule playing at home versus Maryland and Washington, and at Wisconsin in the middle with a bye. Now, moving firstly to the certified win category in the light blue, I have games where Oregon plays host to Idaho, Boise State, and Maryland, and games where they travel to Oregon State and UCLA as games that they will win by 3 or 4 touchdowns, winning by 24 points, 21 points. 28 points, that type of margin, the game where it will not be close. Idaho and Boise State, pretty self-explanatory, although I think Boise State is one of the best G5 programs. It'll show where Oregon really is and really where the G5 is, let's be honest. At Oregon State, some say this could be a trap game, but the Oregon State was just completely gutted when Jonathan Smith left for Michigan State, and I have no faith in this Oregon State team. I'm sorry to the few Oregon State fans that might be watching this video, but I think Oregon will win that game by a large margin. At UCLA, UCLA is just not going to be a good program this year. I don't know how to say it. I know that they return Ethan Garbers at quarterback, but I'm not a huge believer in their head coach, Deshaun Foster, and if he were to succeed, it's through a couple years of building his program, so I'm not a big believer there. And versus Maryland's just not it this year. They lost their quarterback. They lost some pretty darn good wide receivers. They retained some receivers, I'll admit, but Oregon will just cause that Maryland defense to crumble within the first quarter, in my opinion. Really quick, if you have made it this far in the video, I appreciate you watching all the way through. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel. It is the best and most efficient way to support the podcast by far. Like the video and comment your thoughts on this Oregon season down below. Now, moving to this red section, which I have labeled the 60 to 80% range. This is range where I think Oregon will win, but there is cause for you can make a case for these teams possibly upsetting Oregon, but I think Oregon will win by 14 to 20 points. Starting with at playing host to Michigan State, I think Michigan State will be better than people are talking about, as we will get to further down the line in the Michigan State preview that I plan on doing. Another reason to subscribe really fast is so that you can be alerted when these preview videos come out. Back to the video. Sorry about that. A little tangent there. Versus Michigan State, I think Michigan State will put up a good fight. I see this as a more high-scoring game than people would expect. Possibly in the range of 34 to 20, something to that effect. Moving to the at Purdue game, this game being in the Boilermaker territory will help out Purdue, and hey, maybe Hudson Card can make a turn for the better and make this game competitive. I still see Oregon steamrolling, if you will, the Purdue Boilermakers, but there's still a case. I would put this more toward the 80% lean for Oregon, but again, Purdue will have beefed up trench play, and like I said, Hudson Card may make a turn for the better. The next game, Week 9 versus Illinois. Illinois, I'm not too sure about, honestly. This might be lean more of a certified win now that I see it myself. But, Illinois, they're still a Big Ten team. They can still put up points using the ground game, using Luke Altmaier. But I really don't see it for Illinois this year, and I would expect Oregon to win by a margin of 17 to 20 points in that game. At Wisconsin, this game I have trouble about. And you might say, well, it's Wisconsin. Well, it's Oregon. Oregon should probably win this game. And to be honest, I lean more 60-40 Oregon here. Wisconsin is going to be a really good team this year. They have a tough schedule. So I really don't think people will see it nationally, but they will be a very good team. We'll get more on that in the Wisconsin preview. But I would lean about 60% Oregon, 40% Wisconsin at this game, especially that one being in Wisconsin, in Madison, really does shake things up there. Week 14 versus Washington. This will be Oregon's payback game. I expect Oregon to really come out with some aggression and win this game. And last but not least here, the Pick'em games, the ones that I left in the black lettering versus Ohio State and at Michigan. This is a schedule breakdown, not a prediction. These are not my official predictions that will be dropping in early August, late July, somewhere around there. Let me know if you guys want that in a live stream or in a video like this, if you would watch a live stream. Now, moving back here to the video, versus Ohio State and at Michigan, I expect Oregon to go 1-1 versus these teams. I expect Oregon to go 11-1, losing to either Ohio State or Michigan, possibly Wisconsin, like I teased earlier, but another topic for another day. But I think Oregon I think their floor is 9 wins. They could possibly, I would give this about a 10% chance, but losing to both Ohio State and Michigan and dropping a game versus going to Wisconsin, possibly to Purdue versus Michigan State, something to that effect. But that's if all goes wrong, in my opinion. And I think their ceiling is 12-0. Let's be honest here. Their ceiling probably is 12-0. I expect them to go around 10-2 to 11-1. Again, though, that'll be for my official predictions video that'll come later in the summer. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.